Rosemary Hart here with 24 Seconds of Climate Reality. Did you know that the tools now exist to meet the challenges of feeding the hungry using sustainable food systems? As a result, more people are being fed without destroying the environment. And the UN has even started a climate-smart and climate-friendly program to feed the hungry in 70 nations. And that's 24 seconds that can change the world.
What can change in a day? A solar array can power a community. A business can embrace clean technology. A nation can vote to reduce carbon pollution. Around the world, every day, people are taking action to fight climate change, enacting real solutions, and already seeing the benefits. Join us as we travel on a journey of progress around the world, exploring the path toward a better, cleaner future for all of us, and how you can help create it. What can change in a day? Our future. This is 24 Hours of Reality. 24 Reasons for Hope.
I'm Typhon King. We are in hour 17 of 24 Hours of Reality, 24 Reasons for Hope. Pursuing and distributing innovative policies and technologies in the fight against climate change has started to make an impact. And now that solutions exist, we are finally beginning to see the benefits as developments like climate-smart agriculture grow and secure livelihoods around the world. The speaker about to join us has dedicated himself to spreading word of these practices and has used his expertise and experience in affecting public policy to confront climate change and move us towards economically and environmentally sustainable world. Here to discuss the exciting developments with expanded use of clean energy is the Climate Reality Project's founder and chairman, Al Gore.
Thank you. I'm excited about Hour 17 because it's a chance to present the 17th of these 24 Reasons for Hope. Our agricultural system is on the front lines of the climate crisis. Food production is not only a major contributor to global emissions, but it's also greatly affected by the consequences of global warming. As global population continues to grow, the pressure to grow food in a sustainable and resilient manner will obviously only increase. Fortunately, we are already seeing some signs that climate-smart agriculture is now beginning to grow throughout the world. So let's take a look at this 17th reason for hope. Climate-smart agriculture is beginning to grow and in the process to secure livelihoods. Agriculture accounts for 70% of all of the fresh water that humankind uses, 40% of all the land area that we use, and when combined with land use changes and forestry, is responsible for as much as 30% of all global warming pollution. So changes for the better in agriculture are greatly needed. We need to be very clear thinking about this because there are still massive problems in our agricultural system. We see with factory farming and industrial agriculture, abusive practices that harm the land, harm the environment, and also are associated with modern diseases like obesity and all of the many ills that result from diets that are way too heavy in animal fat. But we are also seeing a tremendous rise in awareness of why organic agriculture and healthier diets are extremely important. First of all, let's start with the land itself. I showed a picture similar to this when looking at the rainforest, but this is in the American Northwest, and it also shows that there are many areas that look extremely healthy from the surface and are, but actually the topsoil in many areas is relatively thin. So unwise practices of plowing, like the sod busting activities that created the Dust Bowl in the American Midwest, are extremely dangerous and continue to be threatening to our future. But here is a hopeful sign. No-till agriculture is actually growing steadily in the United States. Not so much for corn in the last 10 years, but for almost all other crops, we have seen a steady growth in the use of no-till agriculture. That means less plowing, less disruption of the structure of the soil, and more hope for retaining the soil carbon that is one of the measures of its health. Let's shift the focus to East Africa, where we see that now more than half of all households have planted at least one drought-resistant crop variety, and half of all households are planting trees on their farms. We saw the wonderful video that Wanjira Maathai, the daughter of Wangari Maathai, the late Wangari Maathai, my dear friend and a heroine of mine, started with the Greenbelt program. Half of the households in East Africa are mixing plants in the same plot in order to produce the health of plants by using one to provide the nutrients that the other needs, and vice versa, and rotating crops in order to restore the health of the soil in an intelligent and scientifically designed way. 48% have adopted improved livestock management practices. So this is representative of the kind of progress that we need. Let's shift the focus again to Vietnam, where 1 million small holder farmers are implementing new rice production practices that boost yields and at the same time reduce water demand and mitigate climate change in the process. Another sign of progress. Denmark is an example of a country that has made tremendous progress in reducing inorganic fertilizer use by 40% during the period 1990 to 2000. And synthetic nitrogen fertilizer is principally made from natural gas, and it is often abused and overused. It's almost like giving the soil steroids, and it results in the depletion of the vital resources in the soil. So the reduction of inorganic fertilizer use is a boon. So the spreading of organic farming techniques is a very hopeful sign. And there are some people who equate organic techniques with lower yields, but it does not have to be that way. And what we have seen worldwide is the steady increase in organic agriculture, and when you add it all up around the world, you see that there is really quite a dramatic increase in the use of organic agriculture. In the United States, this is, this shows that worldwide the amount of farmland farmed organically has more than tripled. In the United States, the demand for organic food is actually driving the marketplace toward more organic farming. And in my opinion, this is an extremely healthy trend, and you see it's most pronounced as a trend with produce. But when we think about organic farming, many have this idyllic picture of father and son walking in the fields and carrying the hoe and looking forward to planting and harvesting and the whole agricultural cycle. Actually, that is now an ideal that many small farmers are trying to get back to. But let's shift the focus one more time and look at the global food system. What we find in the global agricultural picture is that there are chronic surpluses in some areas and chronic food deficits in other areas. North America is as close to a breadbasket as the world has, and we see regular surpluses there. In parts of South America, particularly in Argentina and Brazil, there are regular surpluses. In Australia, there are surpluses. And from year to year, sometimes there are surpluses in Russia and Eastern Europe. But the entire rest of the world is in chronic food production deficits. In Africa particularly, where the population is continuing to grow at a very rapid rate. Midway through this century, not too far from now, Africa will have more people than either China or India. And by the end of this century, Africa will have more people than China and India combined. Now, you look at South Asia, and you also see these chronic food deficits. So when we have a harsh impact from the climate crisis on food growing regions in North America or South America or Australia, right away that produces problems in the form of higher food prices in these developing regions that depend on food exports from the surplus regions. To give an example of how this can reverberate into political instability, remember what happened 4 years ago when Russia had the biggest drought and the biggest fires in its history. Actually, the smoke from those fires, a very hot year, killed an estimated 50,000 people in Moscow as a result of lung diseases. But then there were secondary impacts. 4 months after those fires ravaged that region, Russia withdrew its grain from global markets because it had a shortage and it wanted to preserve what it had for its own people. Ukraine and Kazakhstan also did the same thing. And when all three of those nations withdrew their food crops from the global marketplace, food prices worldwide soared to the highest level ever for the second time in 3 years. And in quite a few countries, there were immediately food riots. And we saw actually the unease over food riots and higher prices for food playing at least some small role in triggering the Arab Spring, because in Tunisia, where it began, it was a food vendor who was being harassed during this period of uncertainty in the food marketplace. So it is important to look at the hopeful signs of growing organic farming practices, no-till farming, the use of crop rotation and mixed crop planting, agroforestry to cut down on wind erosion, and other great signs of progress and success. But as we talk about this reason for hope, it's also really important to think clearly about the harsh impact that the climate crisis itself can have on this global agricultural system. In many developing countries, there have been changes in the periodicity of rainfall. The old familiar rainy season, dry season pattern that used to unfold like clockwork in a predictable manner is now not very reliable. The alternation of floods and droughts has also had a harsh impact. And scientists are now finding that heat stress itself from the higher warming temperatures caused by man-made global warming is affecting crop yields. So we need to build on the hopeful signs in the transformation of agriculture and accelerate them. It's not good enough just to say, okay, there is some progress, because we have to take into account the interaction of the climate crisis with the food system. But we have these success stories. They are signs of hope, and they do point in the right direction to how we can continue to change the destructive factory farming and industrial agriculture techniques, to make further changes in these unhealthy diets that are causing all of the diet-related diseases, and move more quickly back toward healthy farming operations like crop rotation, organic farming, no-till agriculture, and the rest. This will require leadership. It will require changes in the prevailing opinion about farming. But those changes are coming, and the examples that we have seen during this 17th hour represent yet another very powerful reason for hope.
Thank you, Mr. Gore, for your work and your words. It's incredible to think of, but a few years ago, people not only weren't fully aware of the hazards of climate change, those who were didn't see a way forward. But we didn't give up and found a way. Already, we are seeing benefits from all that is being done. But we've only just begun to get on track towards a sustainable world. And that is why today's 24 Hours of Reality is about more than hope. It's about taking action and being open to new opportunities. So let's call ourselves, our friends, and our governments to action. Let's join with the tens of thousands of people who have joined the Climate Reality Project in dedicating a day to make a difference. It's time to stand up and stop climate change, because this is our moment. The challenge is big, but with millions of people coming together for change, we can overcome anything. Go to 24hoursofreality.org to dedicate a day to climate action. Climate change is a big and complex issue, and some would have you believe it's too hard, too costly, too complex to solve. In fact, we know we can do this. Solutions exist. People are already seeing the benefits, and it's up to all of us to see that this expansion of progress sweeps the globe. That's why we're sharing the good news, that we can do this.
Carbon dioxide has reached levels not seen in millions of years.
Climate change is here and getting worse.
Extreme weather has wrought havoc all over the world.
It's happening here and now.
We are running out of
Damaged by the water.
So there's been a lot of news about climate change. A lot of bad news, that is. And for the good news?
Right.
Well, there hasn't really been any. Until recently. Today we're facing the hard truth of climate change with the stubborn relentlessness of human will. And good news is happening.
Right. And now for some good news.
Every day, new solutions are emerging. And not just wouldn't it be neat if solutions, real solutions. Our ability to convert sunshine into usable energy is rapidly becoming more advanced and accessible. Which is great because every hour the sun is sending enough raw energy to Earth to meet the entire world's energy demands for a full year. And the cost for clean energy technologies is dropping. Right now, the cost of solar energy is equal to or cheaper than fossil fuel energy in about 79 countries.
I didn't even know there were 79 countries.
And the electric car market is booming thanks to falling battery prices. And guess who likes that?
Who?
All types of people from around the world are starting to embrace renewable solutions. Schools are being powered by clean energy. Financial institutions are realizing dirty energy is a bad investment. And businesses are finding that going green is good for the bottom line. Which leads us to more good news. These solutions are actually working. It turns out that what is good for the environment is also good for the economy in many ways, like reducing poverty, spurring innovation and creating jobs. In 2013, nearly 6.5 million people were employed globally by the renewable energy industry.
Job creation. Brilliant.
Right. And while other industries are shrinking, renewables are growing as new technologies and capabilities are being rapidly discovered.
And here's some more great news.
This groundswell of support for renewable energy is forcing leaders and governments to take action. The two biggest carbon emitters, China and the US, have made moves to curb their carbon pollution and invest in cleaner energy technologies. And they're not alone. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is convening nations to forge a climate treaty that could unify the world to work together and lower our carbon emissions, transitioning us to a global clean energy society. We all know the bad news. Climate change is here. It's big, it's bad, and it's hurting us and our economies. But the important thing to know is that there is also good news. We have solutions here today, not dreams or wishes, real-world solutions that are ready to go and that are already saving money and improving lives.
Everyone's a winner.
If we rally around this good news and embrace solutions, we can forge the path to a clean energy future and make sure that progress is our new reality.
That's good news. Thank you for watching.
We understand now that we can no longer feed people at the expense of the planet. But how do we ensure the planet's billions of people are fed? In this report from the field, we travel to America's heartland to hear how some visionaries answer the question.
Every moment you watch this video, the Earth's population grows. Every moment, more food is needed to feed that growing number of people. But the way that food is created is what scientists say is partially responsible for climate change, a sort of scorched earth method of farming worldwide.
And as long as you have an annual agriculture, where you have to sort of kill off everything that's growing in a field so that you can plant the crop that you want, you are opening yourself up to soil erosion, which limits the number of years that field is available.
How can we possibly keep everyone on our planet fed? Maybe we get to the root of the problem by listening to this agricultural maverick.
We're losing about 30 million acres a year due to land degradation, according to the United Nations. And soil is more important than oil, and soil is as much of a non-renewable resource as oil.
In other words, once the soil for crops is overused, it's useless for our food needs. Ecologist Tim Cruz.
What's the biggest problem we have in agriculture today?
Well, the biggest problem is that how we farm is not particularly resilient or sustainable. We disturb the soil to such an extent that it leaks nutrients, it leaks carbon, it leaks water.
So it can't be sustained in the way it's done.
We simply do not have the resources available on the planet to feed the human population with an inefficient cropping system.
Crops are abundant, but that is almost entirely due to unsustainable and artificial farming methods. So scientists say our long-held way of farming will not be able to last forever on our current trajectory. That's why the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas, and its leader, Dr. Wes Jackson, say a worldwide change is critical. Jackson and his team are not just talking about choosing a few different crops, but something much more profound. Changing the way the world grows its food, to still grow crops without depleting or destroying our resources the way we are now. Jackson says humans actually got off track about 10,000 years ago when hunters and gatherers became planters and harvesters and started farming practices we still use today. One farming practice started then, the planting of rows of annual grains, is still in use today, but that has done about 10,000 years of damage to the soil.
To grow crops the current way, you've got to have seeds, you've got to have labor in the form of fuel, you've got to have fertilizer, and you've got to have chemicals just to get started. All of those, they use a lot of dense carbon, which harms the climate. Even beyond harming the climate, it's really racing toward a future where our resources are even more constrained. Because of an annual cropping system where we open those soils up, anytime you open soils, it's an invitation to weeds and an invitation to pests. And so chemicals then are typically used to manage those systems. And those chemicals both deplete the soil on their own and harm waters that are nearby.
The carbon that was long sequestered in the land has been disturbed and released, and now much of that farmland is just plain worn out.
The landscape that is plowed, it's like a landslide happening on an annual basis. For millennia, we could remove land from production and fallow it, just leave it be and let it regain fertility. But with 7 billion people on the planet, pushing 9, maybe pushing 11, almost no cropland is going to be fallowed or rested. It's all in intensive production.
According to the University of Minnesota's Institute on Environment, roughly a third of greenhouse gases comes from agriculture-related sources, from deforestation to methane from cattle to the nitrous oxides produced from using too much fertilizer. So over at the Land Institute, it's not your ordinary think tank. No supercomputers or stuffy boardrooms, just experts from all over the world, usually in jeans and work boots in the field, relying on one all-knowing consultant, Mother Nature. For the past 200 years or so, humans have used too much water, too much fertilizer, too many pesticides, and too much fossil fuel, all to try and coax more wheat, more rice, more corn, and more crops out of the earth. Professional plant breeders force the land to produce more and more. The result? In many places, nutrients have been depleted and yields for crops have gone down. The Land Institute team has demonstrated its brand of perennialism can work, and it's introducing crops for testing around the world, from sub-Saharan Africa to Sweden to Yunnan province in China, where perennial rice is being grown, something that will grow all year round without having to be replanted.
All of nature's ecosystems worldwide feature perennials in mixtures, whether we're talking about a rainforest or an alpine meadow or a prairie. We're featuring the perennial and species diversity, a diversity of them. And then we have the opportunity to take advantage of the efficiencies that we see within the natural integrities, or the integrities of a natural ecosystem. So that's what we want to do, is to mimic the structure in order to be granted the function.
A field with only one type of crop is called a monoculture. Without diversity, a whole crop can be wiped out by a single pest or disease. On the other hand, diversified farmland has its own built-in cavalry. That's called a polyculture, multiple crops. So pests and diseases can't do nearly as much damage. A varied natural ecosystem helps put on the brakes. And there's no scorched earth after a harvest of a polyculture. Instead, perennials provide a lush, living plant cover year-round, just like the native prairie you can find almost anywhere in the world. The more we destroy natural plant communities to convert the land for food crops, the more nutrient cycles are disrupted, and the more species go extinct. It is a most unnatural condition for any landscape. Perennials help solve that. Plant diversity is sort of nature's protection plan. The Land Institute has demonstrated that a mix of grains can be planted together and harvested together, and farmers can use existing farm tools. These practices can work anywhere and with a wide variety of crops. A major goal of the Land Institute is to get these methods up and running where they are needed the most. Wheat is the third largest crop in the world and the largest grown in Kansas. A transition from annual to perennial wheat has long been a priority on several continents. Shuwen Wang works on wheat DNA.
So we are trying to develop, a perennial wheat, for the protection of soil, to reduce soil erosion.
Sorghum also offers enormous promise as a perennial. Stan Cox is a world expert.
This is a nursery where we're evaluating crosses between perennial sorghum and annual sorghum to develop new perennial varieties.
Sorghum is native to sub-Saharan Africa, so while continuing to work toward perennial sorghum populations that can thrive in the U.S. Central Plains, the Institute is also developing perennials for drought-stressed regions of tropical Africa and South Asia.
It's promising. So far what I've seen, when you look critically at this population, as time goes on, we have some plants that are able to come up after winter. Like last year, we had a very bad winter, but we noticed some families which were able to come back after.
Across the globe, one of the biggest costs for agriculture is nitrogen-based fertilizers. But with proper land use practices, nature can take care of the nitrogen.
We are capturing the nitrogen from the atmosphere. So that is our main basic motto to doing these experiments. So because then in atmosphere, is almost 70 to 72% of nitrogen present in the atmosphere. So that nitrogen we are capturing through the plants.
Good global teachers at the Institute don't just come in human form. Jackson urges farmers and planters to simply look at the Kansas prairie. What are the natural plants that are thriving there? Much of the prairie is robust and resilient without any costly artificial inputs.
A never plowed native prairie. It's been here for tens of thousands of years. The kind of vegetative structure that's been here during all interglacial periods of the Pleistocene, at least in Kansas. And no soil erosion, no fossil fuel dependency, no chemical contamination of the land and the water. Here's a system that is sustainable.
That's the same thing he'd like people to look at around the world as they figure out what plants to put in there. The Land Institute is also developing new crops, similar to some of those tough-as-nails native plants on the prairie.
So this is our intermediate wheatgrass, or as we call it, Kernza breeding nursery. We have about 11,000 plants out here this year. We'll be harvesting each one of these. We brought it to the laboratory. Right now we're weighing each one separately, and within a couple weeks we'll decide which of these plants out here are the best.
Kernza does not yet produce enough grain to be commercially viable, but big strides have already been made. Plants that won't gobble up water and fertilizers. What can we learn from the almost indestructible nuisance plants in the region? The weeds? The outcasts that seem to survive heat, cold, and drought? Well, the Land Institute is having success crossbreeding a plant known as Silphium with other crops. For decades, Kansas farmers noticed this plant could live in any ditch or patch of ground. It may all sound new agey, but it's true. Everybody can win here. Farmers do better because they are not constantly buying new seeds and plants and fertilizer. Growing populations around the world have more food for their families. No matter the country, Jackson believes people can learn to live within their means. It's more than just saving the soil, it's saving our souls.
Chocolate is one of our oldest and most beloved foods. So it's hard to imagine that cocoa beans could actually be threatened by climate change. In our next report from the field, 24 Hours of Reality travels to Mexico to learn about the efforts underway to save the threatened cocoa industry, as well as the people who rely on it for their livelihoods.
In the heart of Mexico, there is a transportation company that is adopting new technologies and practices to minimize their business's ecological impact and provide funding and support for local farmers who are cultivating an ancient and sustainable crop. That company is ADO.
Mi nombre es Andrés Pérez Peña Campos y soy coordinador corporativo de programas de Fundación ADO. El Grupo ADO es una empresa de más de 80 años de existir. Son 26,000 empleados, somos 6,000 autobuses. La zona de influencia es el sureste de la República Mexicana y además tiene negocios de autobuses en España y en Guatemala.
ADO is one of many large businesses and brands who have made a commitment to going green, believing it is their responsibility to play a role in tackling climate change in their own communities.
En la operación del negocio no solamente con biodiesel en los autobuses, también se incorpora tecnología para reducir las emisiones de dióxido de carbono.
All of ADO's Turbuses in Mexico City have a biodiesel engine that greatly reduces the emissions of pollutants. Another way ADO is going green is through its tire recycling program.
La revisamos y si vemos que sí es posible hacer la subreutilización, nosotros mandamos una llanta. En esa situación, a nosotros nos regresan una llanta de esta manera.
ADO is also making the move to go paperless.
Aproximadamente en 2 meses, pedir refacciones y demás va a ser ya vía electrónica.
In addition to these internal green initiatives, the ADO Foundation is a key supporter of programs with an emphasis on economic and environmental development. One program ADO supports is the Mexican Cacao Foundation.
Por ejemplo, el proyecto de cacao. Este es un proyecto muy noble porque estos árboles permiten que no se erosione la tierra, son muy amigables con otras plantaciones, entonces pueden tener flores, pueden tener árboles, ayudan a la absorción de dióxido de carbono, a la emisión de oxígeno.
An 8-hour drive from ADO's headquarters in Mexico City will bring you to some of the plantations they are helping to restore.
We're located right now in Tabasco, which is the south part of Mexico. And here right next to it we have Chiapas as well, which is the region of the Mayans. They were the first ones who started consuming cocoa. There are many, many varieties of Creole cocoa that belong to the Mayans and that we want for future generations. There are many companies that are interested in recuperating the cocoa production. Companies like Hershey, Mars. Also, we're going to start a project in 2015 with the World Economic Forum to recoup cocoa plantations.
The foundation educates farmers on a demonstration plot on their own land. They are then able to scale up this knowledge, applying it to their entire plantation. Farmers like Matilda Morales Garcia are instructed on many sustainable farming techniques.
We do studies of the soil and we check what nutrients it lacks to provide them in a natural way. There is a pesticide that doesn't use any chemicals and doesn't damage the environment, and you can use a mixture of chili and garlic that you spread with water on the plantation. We want the farmers to be self-sustainable and to transfer the know-how and knowledge to them, bringing agricultural engineers and also technicians that are experts in the field of cocoa that can train them in best agricultural practices, and once they have the know-how, then they replicate it on the rest of their plantations. So right now with the training that the Engineerings and the Mexican Cocoa Foundation and ADO is providing to them, they're recuperating the production, so they're taking care of their trees because they can make a living out of them, but also they can protect the environment at the same time that they have a good quality of life.
The farmers face many challenges in returning their plantations to optimal condition. The age of the trees, poor maintenance practices, encroaching non-native crops, and the destructive Monilla fungus are just a few of the obstacles. Ferencio Sainia is the owner of this plantation.
What he's telling us is that in this plantation, you can see more shadow in here, and that's the reason why you find so much Monilla, because it dries because of the fungus. They cannot sell something like this, and it's wasted. On the other side, they are not finding Monilla like this because the sun is coming in, so the fungus doesn't have the environment to grow so much in the other area.
Ferencio is losing 70% of the cacao fruit in this area due to the Monilla fungus. By clearing the forest floor, the farmers not only battle the fungus, but create a new income stream from selling the highly fertile compost created from the leaves.
The plantation is very old. One of the reasons why the production is decreasing is because of the age of the trees. This plantation is 35 to 40 years old. So it belonged to his father, then he inherited the land. That's why we need to renew some of the trees.
Reforestation is another area the foundation is helping farmers by providing them young trees to revitalize the plantations.
We're here at the nursery garden. Here are the young cocoa trees that will stay here for 6 months, and then we will take into the plantations of the farmers to reforest.
Revitalizing and protecting the plantations is only one part of the Foundation's action plan. Another is giving the farmers the tools they need to process and sell the cacao themselves, which will have a ripple effect on the economy in their community.
And we want to teach them the process so they can become entrepreneurs and sell their own chocolate in a long term and be self-sustainable in every way. So all of this process is natural because the sun is doing the process without anything artificial, without using extra energy. It's just with the use of the energy of the sun that's heating and drying the cocoa to have it ready to take it to the plant or to the factory.
With ADO's funding and the Mexican Cacao Foundation's expertise and assistance, cacao farmers are receiving the knowledge, the tools, and the support they need to revitalize, reforest, and increase the production of their plantations. The program is succeeding in creating a healthier environment, economy, and community.
I'm asking her, like, what would she like to have in the future, you know, like what does she expect from the project? And she's telling me, like, I just hope to follow up doing this and continue the work that you have taught me. What I see for this project in the future is having much more plantations of cocoa, the ones that were deforested and turning into sugarcane, coming back to plant cocoa. I also see myself helping, sharing my knowledge with all of these farmers so they can become themselves entrepreneurs, but sustainable entrepreneurs. And how can we transmit this information to them so they take care of their own environment and their rivers and their trees and just protect what is ours, because we're really connected to nature. And as long as nature is fine, we will be fine.
When the strength of big business joins forces with the hard work of local farmers and programs meant to increase environmental consciousness, there is hope. Hope for a sustainable future with a healthy environment and better quality of life for everyone.
Since this is a cause that requires that we all do our part, we sent our green men on the street out to talk to the people of New York City. So let's check in again with Ian Somerhalder.
Hey everyone, it's Ian Somerhalder, your green man on the street. I am in New York City, where the United Nations is about to go into General Assembly, where this year there will be a massive focus on the issue of climate change. So I'm here to take a bite out of the green apple, to generally assemble and talk to people about a subject that always renews me: hope. Do you know anything about climate change?
Yeah, we've done it in geography at school.
You have? You know what it is, right, Mom?
Of course I do.
Have you guys experienced any of it in the UK?
Yes, a lot more flooding
lot more
in the
flooding.
UK. A lot more, it's getting warmer,
And
but
the
it's also
winters are
getting
getting
wetter.
And the
And
winters
the
are
winter's
getting
getting colder. Yeah, yeah.
What's the consensus in the UK? Like, I mean, is there things that you guys are doing, driving cleaner cars, anything that...
They have, they're starting to have electric cars. There are a lot more here, but they're starting them in England. And I think we're trying to look after it a bit more, look after the world a bit more.
Do you know anything about solar energy?
They have solar panels on houses.
Yeah, do you know what actually works even in cloud cover like this?
No, I didn't know.
How do people get around in the UK?
Mainly cars.
Yeah?
But to be fair, we're going more walking and more biking, particularly in the cities, aren't we?
Yeah.
And since we've been in New York, we've only used the bike or walked.
Nice. Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Feels really good.
Makes you feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Are you guys pretty stoked on trying to figure out how to save your planet so you can live, be happier, be healthier?
Yeah. What we do, we try to eat food that's not shipped for miles. So we try to eat local fruit and veg, don't we?
Yeah, it's
and
better
meat.
that way.
Yeah.
If you eat local stuff, then they don't have to use all the fuel to ship all those foods, right?
Yeah.
You have a cool mom. Hey, how are you? Hey, do you have a minute for Planet Earth? Hi. What's going on? What's your name?
From the Vampire Diaries.
I am, sometimes, during the week.
My name's Caitlin.
Caitlin, what do you do?
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher?
Yep.
What ages?
First grade.
Early development?
Yep.
Critical thinking?
Yes.
What is climate change to you?
Climate change, global warming, things that are going wrong. Usually it's connected with a negative.
Right, but we got to make it a positive.
Yeah, we do.
So we have to do that.
Mhm.
So what can you do?
What can I do?
You have classrooms of first graders. You can do a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna, help the kids learn how to take care of the environment.
Thank you. Laura, so you're from the UK, right?
I am, yes.
And I got your name wrong like 5 times. I went to Nora, Dora, Bora. Okay, so do you know that enough solar energy reaches the Earth every hour to meet the needs of the entire population for a full year?
I didn't actually, not until today.
Crazy, right?
It is
And
crazy.
I'm sure in the UK you guys have a lot of this, right? Cloud cover. Yeah. But you could still get solar energy through cloud cover.
Oh yeah, it's the rays come through the clouds, don't they? Anyway,
Right.
so.
Would you put solar on your house?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know
Anything to
people
help
that
the
do?
environment.
Huh?
Anything to help the environment.
Okay, cool. And you'll tell other people that, right?
Yeah,
You'll share that
definitely.
information?
Definitely.
Promise?
Yeah, I
Pinky
promise.
swear.
I swear. Pinky swear.
Boom.
Boom.
You rock. So you're 14.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And your sister or mom?
Mom.
Okay. So listen, climate change. You know a little bit about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? So what are you doing about it?
I was in the climate club at my school.
Was or are?
Well, I left my school, so.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So.
What did the climate club do?
We worked on educating the rest of the school about about climate change because it went from preschool through 8th grade. So a lot of the younger kids didn't know about climate change and that kind of thing. So we taught them about climate change, and we made dots, so do one thing. So everybody wrote down one resolution they had to help the climate.
And then it was also action based, right? It made people. You helped them understand to go out and just do something. It wasn't just about awareness.
Yes.
Wouldn't you hope that more kids had access to that kind of education?
Yeah, I would. I think that educating people about climate awareness is one of the first steps you can take.
Can you please be active in that and like really spread that throughout the country?
Sure.
Help me out.
Okay.
Because I don't sleep very much at night and I'm really busy doing this stuff. Can you help me?
Yeah, we'll do.
You guys rock, man. Every movement has its moment. This is ours. So I'm dedicating a day to do my part. I'm dedicating a day to make a difference. So come join me. Go to 24hoursofreality.org and help me spread the word by hashtagging the word climate hope.
Oh, did you race GS all growing up, or?
Mostly, yeah, it's GS and slalom races.
Oh, you were just crushing everybody, right?
No, I never won, really. I didn't really win until I was like 18 or so.
Oh, dude, don't feel bad. Do you know what I was doing during my teenage years? I was filtering through Detroit's sewer system, so, you know, let's just say we both come a long way. Right?
The 2013 season was an amazing year. With winning 3 world championship gold medals was something that was definitely far beyond my expectations, and then winning 6 giant slaloms this year, and it was an amazing year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you know, for me, 2013, not the best year. I had a lot of good friends, close friends, melt way before their time. So, oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm such a. This is my stuff. I should be a better friend to you. Yo, Liggity, drop that beat.
Brr.
A 1-2, a 1-2. Yo, my name is Snow, and my beats got flow. And yo, these winters getting hot, in case you didn't know. So if you want to keep skiing all over my face, you better spread the climate message all over the place. Give it up, yo, for Ted Liggity on the thigh drums. Ow!
We've been learning today about progress and hope on the climate issue. But meanwhile, the fact is that big oil is still a massive and problematic emitter of carbon pollution. In this next segment from millennial filmmaker Vanessa Black, we travel to the Gulf of Mexico to take a closer look at the industry and to investigate whether the major oil producers are truly committed to cleaning up their environmental impact. After all, if you look at their ads, they talk a lot about how they're becoming cleaner and greener. We know they're spending millions of dollars on these ads, but how much are they spending on actually cleaning up their product so it doesn't damage our environment? As Vanessa learns in her interviews, if you talk to the people who live in the Gulf and rely on its waters to make a living, they'll tell a very different, very personal story of big oil. Are these companies really doing all they can to avoid a catastrophic spill of carbon pollution into the atmosphere? Or is it just a lot of hot air? Let's take a closer look.
BP had 2 big goals: help the Gulf recover and learn from what happened so we could be a better, safer energy company.
Using algae to form biofuels, we're not competing with the food supply.
At Chevron, if we can't do it right, we won't do it at all.
If you were to watch TV these days, you'd think big oil companies are starting to clean up their act by focusing on clean energy. In 2012, 94% of carbon emissions in the US came from burning fossil fuels. According to the EPA, 1 barrel of carbon-based crude oil will produce an average of 0.43 metric tons of CO2 emissions when burned. That's almost half of a typical 2-story house.
You turn on the TV and you see an ad and you see, oh, everything's great and everything is so wonderful. And when you spend hundreds of millions of dollars on that advertising campaign, of course people believe it.
What do they want us to see? And what is the reality? And why would they want us to think something different than what's really going on? In this episode of Youth Fuel, we travel to Texas and Louisiana to investigate big oil and their green marketing. I'm Vanessa Black. I'm a filmmaker and an activist, and I'm traveling around America to find out more about our biggest polluters and climate change deniers. We know the oil industry is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. However, if you look at their advertising, they spend a lot of energy trying to convince us to think otherwise.
At Shell, we are developing more efficient fuels that can help us to get the most from our energy resources.
The place where I want to be.
What do you think of the company BP?
BP? From what I've heard about it, that they're a clean, like, save the earth type of company when it comes to chemicals and gas and all that stuff.
But the reality is, Chevron, Shell, ExxonMobil, and BP are oil companies that pump carbon pollution into the atmosphere and endanger life on our planet, and make billions of dollars in profit while doing so. So why is it that people think these companies are environmentally friendly? It's called greenwashing. Disinformation to present an eco-friendly, responsible public image. Many of us remember the Exxon Valdez spill in Alaska, but more recently, we remember the BP oil spill in 2010.
This is the biggest man-made disaster that directly affects one of the most productive estuaries in the world.
It doesn't seem like 25 years after the Exxon Valdez disaster that we've gotten any better ways to clean up oil when it's spilling. You know, we're drilling deeper and deeper, but when it comes to dealing with a catastrophe like this, we haven't improved the technologies.
Deepwater Horizon was the largest accidental marine oil spill in petroleum industry's history, and more than 200 million gallons of crude oil is estimated to have been pumped into the Gulf over the course of 87 days. A federal court ruling in September of this year found BP was grossly negligent, and they could face additional billions in fines. We sat down with the locals to see how it's costing them.
I mean, we're still seeing instances where oil is washing ashore. There's still tar balls out there. You know, so this situation, this dilemma that we're in, it isn't long and gone, it's still happening.
BP released this statement on their website. Field notes from 2010, 2011, and 2012 do not document any visibly oiled oyster beds.
Water quality is okay. In reference to the health of the production and the small oysters, that's not there. So if BP's trying to claim that everything's fine, it's bullshit.
They got enough money to spend, they can paint their own picture the way that they want to. You know, so as far as being friendly to the environment, I mean, we're part of the environment and they certainly haven't been friendly to us.
Dirty stories like this are radically different than the rosy depictions we see in their advertisements. Outside of the Gulf, a lot of people think that BP is an environmentally friendly company.
That's news to me. First off, I didn't even know that.
BP needs to put their money where their mouth is and actually put that money towards restoring the Gulf instead of, you know, spending millions and, you know, maybe even tens, hundreds of millions on PR efforts.
Even knowing all the facts about pollution, top oil companies seem to be spending more money on commercials about renewables rather than following through with the ads that they are saying. In 2010, Chevron launched their We Agree campaign, describing Chevron's leadership in development of renewable energy. However, the company is now dialing down the program's funds and have encouraged staffers to look for jobs elsewhere. Shell ran a feel-good ad called Let's Go, implying their investments in green technology. But the fact is they're devastating the planet by oil drilling and refining. We called BP to set up an interview.
I've done a lot of research
on your sustainability, and I would love to just set up a call. But they declined to be on camera. After some email correspondence, they wouldn't answer all of our questions, including the ones we wanted answered the most.
If we're going to continue to, push the boundaries when it comes to drilling, then we also need to invest in safety and invest in research to make sure that these things can be done without destroying the environment, without, impacting our community.
We're a 138-year-old business, a fifth-generation family operation, and I want my son to be able to do it.
We won't be fooled by oil's green ads, and we won't be tricked into believing that if we can't see it, it's not there. Just like the Gulf might look like it's back to normal, there are in fact environmental impacts happening daily that you do not see. When it comes to climate change, harmful pollution isn't always visible. Understanding these impacts is the first step for a cleaner future. Join the growing movement to solve the climate crisis and fuel a cleaner future.
There's so much more to come on 24 Hours of Reality, including another of former Vice President and Climate Reality Project founder Al Gore's reasons to have hope, conversations with the World Bank's Dr. Jim Kim, actor Bradley Whitford, Reed Hunt, counselor to the President John Podesta, and Lieutenant General Russell Honoré. More from our Green Men on the Street, Ian Somerhalder. More field reports you need to see. And music from Colby Calais, Jack Johnson, and Boyz II Men. You can see all of the highlights of 24 Hours of Reality starting later today at 24hoursofreality.org. Even a child can understand there's a lot to lose when it comes to climate change. In fact, perhaps the young people of the world are the ones best positioned to ask some tough questions on the issue. After all, they are the ones with the most at stake. As the United Nations prepares to convene a special meeting of the world's leaders to collaborate on negotiating a new agreement that can ensure a clean energy future, the Climate Reality Project thought it's a perfect time to invite the young people of the world to ask their nation's leaders the climate questions on their mind. What's amazing is how simple this complex issue can become when you see it through a child's eyes. And after viewing this montage of impressive youth from around the world, we'll see a single submission from a future climate leader from the United States.
My name's Amy Farrett and I live in England.
Hi, I'm Aiden and I'm from Hong Kong.
Hi, my name's Molly and I live in Malaysia.
Hi, I am Mika from South Africa.
I live in Croatia.
I live in Auckland, New Zealand.
And I'm from Brazil.
Brazil.
From South Africa.
From France. From the United States.
United States.
From Mongolia.
From Malaysia.
From Dubai.
From Romania.
From Mexico City.
From the Philippines. From India.
From India.
Western Australia.
So my question for all world leaders is this.
And my question to the government bodies is?
My question to the UN is?
And I guess the first thing I want to say.
The first question I want to ask.
My question is?
My question.
My question.
My question.
My question.
I'd like to question.
I would like to ask.
I'm asking members of the UN.
Why do you sit here and pretend?
Why are we letting companies freely pollute the atmosphere?
Why are you allowing the palm oil industry to destroy Malaysian rainforest?
Why do global economic policies consistently stimulate and encourage reliance on burning fossil fuels?
Why is there no more emphasis on developing a generation who can take responsibility for the causes of climate change?
Why, in South Africa, a country overflowing with sunlight, don't we use solar panels?
Why not countries with similar consumption formulate region-specific laws and targets for the next decade?
Why not to put pressure on these companies to change their methods?
Why don't governments start creating sustainable modes of transport?
Para preservar o bem mais precioso que existe no planeta.
Why not change our focus, leave animosity and hatred and competition behind?
Why not incentivize people to use energy more efficiently?
Why not invest more resources in communities?
Why not strive to reduce carbon emissions?
Everyone has a stake in what happens to our planet.
The global problem requires a global solution.
It's time to act. So what are you waiting for?
My name is Maya Nadiang and I live in California, USA. We're currently experiencing a record-breaking drought right now, and global warming isn't helping to alleviate our problem. So I'm asking members of the UN, why do we continue to emit harmful greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide by burning coal and other fossil fuels, which ultimately results in rising global temperatures? Why not strive to reduce carbon emissions by improving the insulation of buildings and educating people about the benefits of energy conservation and really encouraging fuel-efficient vehicles and reducing electricity and petroleum use. Why not produce more energy for renewable sources and use fuels with lower carbon content? Why not take into consideration carbon capture and sequestration as a solution to reducing emissions from coal and gas-fired plants and industrial processes? All I ask is that we not wait until the last minute to take action.
I just checked, and we are over 150 million social media impressions. Keep the conversation going. I have to say that coming out of Hour 17, I feel encouraged to know that food sources around the world are better integrating climate-smart agricultural practices. These practices are creating sustainable jobs as well as livelihoods that help provide participants in the agricultural economy dignity and security. Of course, many exciting developments are still to come. Make sure you're a part of them. If you haven't yet pledged with Climate Reality Project to dedicate a day to making a difference, now is the time. Go to 24hoursofreality.org to dedicate a day to climate action. Then, stay with us for our next hour, where we'll be catching some new exclusive segments and hearing again from Al Gore as we find out about how we're already seeing the benefits as clean energy creates jobs around the world. And still to come, we'll bring you a special interview with the president of the World Bank, Dr. Jim Kim, for his insights on the new economy, on the new energy economy. See you next hour for the Climate Reality Project's 18th Reason for Hope. Don't forget to do your part. You can make a world of difference.